we're back. Again, for those of you that are tuning in a little bit later, this is Patrick Allman from Stop Doing Nothing, and today I want to talk about a topic that's come up a lot recently in some discussions I've had, and that's how much should I charge for this? How much should I charge for my hourly time? How much should I charge for a t-shirt? How much should I charge for a widget? How much should I charge to travel and do this? All kinds of different pricing questions, and this mainly comes up, hold on. And this mainly comes up from people who are just starting their entrepreneurial journey, people who are just starting a business for the first time, people who have been in business for a little bit but aren't making much progress, and also people that want to get to next level stuff. Now, what I'm sharing with you is what I call timeless information. And what I mean by timeless information is this is not something that originally I came up with. These are concepts and tools that I've learned over time by being a member of the National Speakers Association, by associating with people who have done it the right way, by listening to other brilliant people, and by reading books on the topic. And one of my favorite people to listen to, for example, on this is Jay Abraham. I'm a big fan of Jay Abraham and watching his videos. And whenever I give a presentation or a keynote, I always point people to look at some of his topics on pricing and value, some of his YouTube videos and some of his books on pricing and value. So right off the bat, that's someone I would encourage you to engage with or learn more about pricing on his content, is Jay Abraham. That's where I get a lot of my information from. But getting back to those of you that are just either thinking about starting a new product or service or thinking about starting a new business altogether, one of the big questions you're going to have for yourself on day one of your business is, what in the heck do I charge? If I'm doing an hourly service, do I charge $25 an hour? Do I charge $700 an hour? Do I charge $1,000 an hour? Those are all good questions. Should you charge in between? If I'm selling a shirt, or I'm selling a widget, or I'm selling a bookcase or whatever, what do I charge? What do I charge for my products and services? And oftentimes the discussion on this topic stems from people who look at the, I'm going to say the low-end mindset. When I look at the expense of something, like let's say the expense of a t-shirt. We'll go with a t-shirt example because that one's nice and simple. These days it's very easy to get a t-shirt printed for $10, $11, if not cheaper. You go to a site like Printful, you set up a Shopify store that connects to it, you get a t-shirt printed, your expenses on that t-shirt are maybe $10 or $11, and maybe you go look at the market and you see, hey, everybody else is creating a t-shirt for $15. Hey Heather, it's good to see you tune in. Maybe that should be what I charge, maybe $15 plus the cost of shipping. And then let's say your shirt was $10, all of a sudden you're making $5 profit if you take out the cost of shipping, which is passed through to your client, and which is passed, and then of course the actual cost of the shirt getting printed. And so you end up with a profit of $5. And you think, hey, that's great. You didn't do any work. You just took the order on your website, and that's your price of $5. But what I want you to do when you look at this is I want you to look at the who else is selling t-shirts for that exact same price. Now think about that. Think about, where can you buy a t-shirt for $16? You can buy a t-shirt for $16 on Amazon. You can buy a t-shirt for $16 on Walmart. You can buy a t-shirt for $16 at Target. But what do you think about when you think about someone who gets their clothes at Target or someone who gets their clothes at Walmart? Now, I do not ever want to diss or put down people that buy clothes. That's not my point here. When you think of those brands, you think of value. You're thinking of your specific pocketbook, which is always a good thing to think of if you're a budget-friendly person. If you're someone who doesn't have a shit ton of money laying around and you are perfectly okay with that, that's perfectly fine. But just think of the mindset of that. Now, I want you then to alter your mindset for a second and think about going over to the Gucci website or going over to the Dolce & Gabbana website. How in the world? I know these brands. Thank you very much for having a teenage daughter at one point. Think about going over those sites, and what do you think if you went to the Dolce & Gabbana site or the Gucci site and you saw a pair of sunglasses there or a pair of shoes? Hey, I'm not dissing you, darling. What do you think it would cost you to buy a t-shirt at Gucci or a set of shoe wedges at Dolce & Gabbana? You're going to find a lot of the exact same products, but the price is going to be 5 to 10 times, if not more, then you see it at some of the bargain brands. And now, what's the difference though? When you think of a Gucci or a Dolce & Gabbana, make sure I get that name right. What do you think about when you think about those? You think high-end, you think luxury, you think expensive, you think I'll never be able to afford that. But sometime I want you to look at some of the products those places put out versus some of the same products that maybe some of the other brands at the other end of the value spectrum put out. And oftentimes what you'll find is that the exact same product, or it's close to the same product. Oftentimes when you see news stories, do exposés about where does a luxury brand have their things made, oftentimes you see it's in the same factory sometimes as the Walmart or the Target or the Dress Barn or whatever has it made. So oftentimes these products come out of the same out of the same creation area, if you will, the same factories that some of the higher end ones, or the lower end ones come out the same as the higher end one, and vice versa. And the only difference, in my opinion, and this has been proven by other people, is the actual monetary value put on it. And what I mean by that is what you charge by it. What you charge determines the value of your brand. So if you're someone who charges $10 or $11 or $15 for a t-shirt, you are going to be looked at as maybe one of the lower end brands or one of the brands that's kind of settled in with everybody else. And then on the other end, you are looking at something must have more value because of the higher end prices. So if you are someone who wants to be perceived as a high-end brand, high-end coaching is a big thing right now. I see a lot of my mastermind groups. I want to be a high-end coach. I want to be a coach that charges, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 for an 8-week session, which I think is an absolutely great thing to charge. And I didn't always used to think that way. When I first went into business 20 years ago, I had to quote an hourly price, and I thought the hourly price was outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And I have no problem telling you what it was. In the middle of, I think I went into business in 1998. Does that sound about right? Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I was asked by my first client. I had my first client even before I went into business because they wanted to hire me on, and they asked me to quote them a price. And I thought that, I said, oh, you know what, I'll charge. And I thought of a number that I thought nobody would ever pay me. And I kept upping the number, and I kept upping the number, and I kept upping the number. Now keep in mind, I came from the salary background. And I kept upping that number, and the number I eventually came to is $100 an hour. And I thought that is an absolutely outrageous number. There is no way in the world anybody would pay me $100 an hour to travel around and do mainframe consulting, because that's when I left off after my first corporate gig and went off on my own and went freelance as I charged $100 an hour. And I quoted that number to someone, and two things happened. One, they accepted, which just blew me and my family away. I could not believe it. There's no way. This is going to absolutely change our lives and transforms our lives, which it did. That was just an amazing thing for us. But it also taught me a very valuable lesson in pricing, which I've tried to pass on to other people. And that's if you quote a price to someone and they instantly accept it, you didn't ask enough. And I can't remember where I first heard this lesson, but that lesson in my own life was something that just really kind of hammered that home. And so there are a couple of things I want you to take away from this today. One is when you are thinking of pricing and you're thinking of the lower end of a possible spectrum of what you could charge for something, and you're thinking of the upper end, do me a favor and do your brand a favor and lean towards the upper end. Yeah, are you going to sell less? Probably, but you're going to be selling to people who have money. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to target high-end people who have money, who have deep pocketbooks. There's nothing wrong with that. You can pick and choose in the entire spectrum where you want to charge. You can charge $7 for a t-shirt, or you can charge $70 for a t-shirt. But I guarantee you, if someone comes to your website and they see a t-shirt there for $70, they're going to be spending a lot more time on your website. They may not buy, but they're going to be thinking, why in the heck can this person charge $70? That is absolutely amazing for a t-shirt. And I bet you I could go out there on the internet right now and find a t-shirt someplace for $70. I mean, it really It really would not be that hard. It wouldn't be down the street at my local Walmart or Target, but I could go out there, I'm sure, and find a t-shirt for $70. And another lesson I want you to walk away with is when you are thinking about selling a product or service, don't necessarily always look back at your expenses and use that as some kind of generic formula to figure out how much you should be selling it for. Oftentimes I'll see people come up with these complicated formulas that if something costs me X, I need to charge 5 times X. No, the way you do that is you kind of look at your business overall and the kind of profits you want to make at your business. And there's no definite formula for this, but you look at your income, you look at your hard costs, you look at your soft costs, and then you also look at the perceived value that you want to give your brand. And that is the biggest factor I want you to take away from this, is what perceived value do you want to put off as a brand? Do you want to be looked at as a high-end luxury brand, or do you want to be looked at as a brand that kind of is in the same row with everybody else? And by the way, that brings up another very good lesson I completely forgot about, is I don't want to be seen as the same brand as everybody else. I want to stand out. If you look at pricing for t-shirts, for example, I'm sure the 80-20 formula applies, where you can find 80% of the, how does that work? 80% is going to be, 80% of the companies are going to be down towards the lower 20% of the chart, or something like that. I can't do it in my head right off the top here. But you're going to find that the vast majority of the companies that sell t-shirts are going to sell towards the lower end of the brand. And then the very small minority, that 20%, is going to sell towards the upper end of the brand. And that's where you want to be considered. There's less competition at that higher end. So when you are dealing with people that do have deep pocketbooks, you have less competition. If somebody walks into your store, let's say, and they have $15, and there's a row of t-shirt stores, they have a row of t-shirt stores they can go to and buy a t-shirt from for $15. You have a shit ton of competition. I'm not sorry for the cursing. You have a ton of competition there when it comes to dealing with someone who has $15. However, if somebody walks in, or somebody is coming in your area, online or offline, and they have $70, and they're like, I have no problem spending $70 on a t-shirt. I want to spend $70 on a t-shirt. You want to be in that upper end because there's less competition there. So, if there's 15 stores that sell a shirt for $15, and there's 20 stores total, there's only going to be 5 stores that sell that shirt for $70. And then don't forget, you got the shoes you got to add on, you got other stuff. And I know some of you may be more in the kind of consulting and coaching or service-based industries, but this same thought process, applies there. If you want a website, let's say, do you want a website for $200, $500, $1,000? You can find those, no problem. I mean, those are a dime a dozen. You go to Upwork, you go to Fiverr, you can get someone to build you a WordPress website for $50. Absolutely no problem. Now, have you ever done a good website design shop, though, or a shopping experience, and all of a sudden you're going to hit firms, I've got some here in my own city, that I know do websites for $10,000, $20,000. And there are some technical differences and there are some quality differences, but for the most part, they're still doing WordPress web design. Their designers may be more expensive, they may have more overhead, but the end result is still the same. It's going to be a website. So the final lesson here I want you guys to take away from all this is as you are charging or as you are figuring out your prices, lean towards the higher side. If you were to take one thing away from this video, it's lean towards the higher side of pricing. You are going to have fewer inquiries. You are going to have fewer customers, but those customers are going to be much higher value to you, and you are going to be able to give them a higher quality service. Think about that. If you charge someone $100 a month for a particular service, then how much are you going to give them in terms of loyalty? How much are you going to give them in terms of time when they really need something from you and you're charging them $100 a month? Now think about the other end. If you're charging somebody $3,000 a month, when that person calls, first of all, that person's going to expect a higher value out of you. But also, when that person calls, you're going to feel a lot better giving of your time and yourself when that person needs your products and services. That $100 person, that $100 a month person, they're going to get something out of you, but it's not going to be your absolute best work. Not that you should always work for the people that give you the most money, but it feels better. It feels better to me when I get compensated well for my time and my knowledge. And here's one other lesson I just remembered here. I'm remembering all these things that are coming up in the back of my head. The other lessons I've learned is remember that people are not paying you for the, hey Jillian, it's good to see you. Got all kinds of cool people on here. People are not paying you for the hour of that time. They are paying you for that experience that you have. So for example, when I went out in business on my own, I think in my late 20s, early 30s someplace, I had 3 decades of IT experience, which means I had been in the military, I had been at a huge car rental company, I had written all this code, I had done all these things, and all that stuff made me very qualified for the work I was getting ready to do in 1998. So they're not paying some intern, they're not paying some grunt, they're not paying some college graduate, they're paying someone who has a shit ton of experience. And you should get paid for that experience. You fought for that experience. You got that experience by working weekends and late nights and by doing a bunch of things wrong. And because you know how to do all these things wrong, you know the shortcut to getting them done right. And have you ever, there's a really good story out there about the engineer about a company that was having a problem with some, giant widget. And they called all these people that could not get the problem fixed. And they ended up calling this older guy who came in and looked around at the problem for, 20 or 30 minutes and then took his wrench and tapped something and fixed it instantly. And they'd been working on this for a long time. And a lot of you know how the story goes, is eventually the guy sent them an invoice. And the invoice was, for $1,000. And they're bitching and moaning. They're like, hey, you came in, you were only here for half an hour and you get paid $1,000? And the guy was like, no, it's $100 to come in for that hour and for that half hour and work on that. It's $900 for the 30 or 40 years of experience it took for me to know exactly where to whack the widget to fix it. And that's a very good lesson I want you to learn. Is you people, when someone hires you for an hour or 2 hours or for a week or for a month or whatever, they're not paying for just that block of time. They're paying for the fact that you can get done something quicker, you can get something done quicker, and you can get it done right. Is that a mic drop, Jillian? I can't tell. I think it's a mic drop right there, yeah. Or it's, I'm speaking too loud and you want me to lower the volume. One of the two, I can't remember which right there. But yeah, this is the thing is when you're figuring out your pricing, don't think about just the value of your time for that hour. Think about all those decades of experience, a mix drop, like a Chex Mix drop. I mean, I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm just playing with you. Think about all those hours of experience that you have tied up in your life and all those times that you worked for free. If you can think about when you're fixing a particular problem, think about, maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago when you had to work on that same problem and you couldn't figure it out and it kept you up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and you were pulling your hair out. I guess I'm one to speak, but you were pulling your hair out and you worked on that till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning for free or for next to nothing because it was either a problem you had created or it was just you weren't charging enough for your services. Well, now you know what? You're going to make up for that on the other end. You're going to charge well for your services. You're not going to be cheap. You're not going to be a low-end bastard. And you're going to get compensated well because people get compensated well, they have better and they have more life choices. And that's one of the reasons I have no problem when it comes to charging well for a product or service is it gives me better life choices. It gives my family better life choices. It gives my business better choices. And it gives those around me better choices. Best thing I ever did was triple my rates. God damn, Heather, you're smart. Very good idea. See that right there, people? See Heather Wells right there in the comments said, the best thing I ever did was triple my rates. Scary because I wasn't sure people would pay. They did. I've had that experience too. And it happens every year. I'm not going to say I raise my prices every year, but when I give someone a quote for something, maybe a one-off project or a 6-month, coaching thing, and I give them the price, the people that I really want to work with, the people that say, no problem, you're worth it. I've got people right now in my private messages, and you know who you are, you may be watching this video. I've got people right now that want to pay me for masterminding, and I don't have the right program set up for them quite yet. I'm working on it now that I know it exists, but I'm leaving money on the table because I've got people that want to pay me monthly to work with me, and I want to do the offering that they're asking for. I just am not ready for it. So when you are really good at what you do, people will pay good money for it. I am proof of this. Heather in the comments is proof of this. Jillian, I'm sure that you're proof of this also. Jillian's on board watching right here. When you are worth it, it's amazing what people will pay for you, for your time. And it's going to be scary. Like Heather pointed out right here, it's scary. It's scary when maybe you've, up until a particular point in your life, you've done, let's say, WordPress web design, and you've been charging $1,000. You thought, oh, that's great. I'm going to design a 10-page WordPress website, and then I'm going to pay $1,000. It'll be awesome. And then the next month you say, you know what? I'm going to charge $6,000 for a WordPress web design. That is a scary number to say. I mean, let's not lie. It's scary when someone says, what's going to be my investment for this? Use the word investment, don't use the word cost or expense. What's my investment going to be for this? And you quote them $6,000. It's going to make you shake. It's going to make the hairs on your skin stand up, and it's going to make you sweat a little bit. Or women don't sweat, of course, they glow. It's going to make you sweat when you say something like that. But then again, I want you to think about that. Think about that 60 seconds later when they're like, you know what? I really need that website, and you came highly recommended, and I've seen your work, and I want you. I want you to do my website. So sure, here's my credit card number. Here's my $3,000 deposit. We'll get it done, and then 2 months later, we'll pay the other $3,000. Think about that feeling. Think about hanging up from that phone call, getting $3,000 on your Stripe account, and then going and talking to your spouse and saying, hey, you know how I normally make $1,000 for a website? This month I made $6,000 for a website. Your spouse will be very happy with you, and you're going to eat well at Burger King that week, let me tell you. So I've got a lot of lessons here when it comes to pricing. If you want to, I want to ask them, please drop them in the comments and I'll answer them, or I will, if you want to ask them, you don't want to do it publicly, as always, message me or text me. And you can message me right here on Facebook or on Instagram or on YouTube, or you can obviously text us here at any point in time, 405-251-2022, 405-251-2022. Again, this has been Patrick Allman with Stop Doing Nothing and Focus Digital Marketing. Please do me a favor, charge well for your products and services, and I will be talking to you again soon in another video. I love each and every one of you, and I appreciate your time. Now let's all go out there and make some money together. Take care.